Everyone is talking about these new Metricon homes like they're some incredible breakthrough. Flat pack homes, built in China, shipped to Australia in containers, 4 days from slab to lockup, 20 days from slab to handing the keys to a new owner. The media calls it innovation. I call it an indictment. Before we get into it, if you enjoy this sort of content and you want to support the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with someone who enjoys looking beyond the headlines. Every like tells YouTube to show this video to more Australians, and that's how conversations like this reach people who might otherwise never hear them. This isn't really a story about modular housing. It's a story about how Australia became one of the hardest countries in the developed world to build a home. To understand why, we need to go backwards. Let's go back to 1995. Australia wasn't perfect. Builders still had delays. Councils still had paperwork. There were still bad builders and good builders. Houses still needed engineering. Nobody is pretending it was some golden age. What was different was the amount of friction between the idea of building a house and actually handing someone the keys. The average family could buy a block of land, engage a builder, obtain approvals and move into a home without navigating a maze of consultants, reports, assessments and compliance documentation that has become normal today. The house Australians were legally allowed to build in 1995 isn't the house they're allowed to build in 2026. That isn't nostalgia. That's simply how regulation works. Every edition of the National Construction Code has introduced additional requirements, higher structural standards, more detailed waterproofing requirements, more documentation, more inspections, greater engineering involvement, more certification, more accountability. On top of that came significant increases in thermal energy efficiency requirements. Again, taken individually, every one of these changes can be explained. Better insulation, improved glazing, more efficient building envelopes, reduced energy consumption. Those are worthwhile objectives. The problem isn't that one requirement exists. The problem is that every requirement carries a cost. Every requirement needs somebody to design it, somebody to certify it, somebody to inspect it, somebody to sign it off, somebody to take legal responsibility for it. Costs don't arrive as one enormous bill. They arrive as hundreds of smaller obligations that accumulate over decades until nobody remembers what building used to look like before all of them existed. Accessibility provides another example. Modern building standards include accessibility requirements for many classes of new housing. The objective is understandable. Australia has an aging population and we should think about people with mobility challenges. Reasonable people can agree with the intent while still asking an important question. Has anybody ever measured what every additional requirement adds to the final cost of a home? Because first home buyers don't purchase regulations, they purchase houses. Every additional compliance obligation ultimately becomes part of the mortgage. Then the planning process begins. Local councils have their requirements. State governments have theirs. Utility providers have theirs. Developers have theirs. Private certifiers have theirs. Environmental assessments, stormwater reports, traffic considerations, infrastructure contributions, bushfire overlays, flood overlays, neighbour objections. One approval depends on another. One department waits on another. Nobody appears responsible for the overall timeline because everybody controls one small piece of it. That's how delays become normal. When people ask why homes take so long to build, they imagine tradies standing around drinking coffee. The reality is often very different. Builders spend extraordinary amounts of time waiting for approvals, waiting for amended plans, waiting for engineering revisions, waiting for inspections, waiting for paperwork, waiting for someone in another office to place another signature on another form. Then politicians announce another housing target, 1.2 million homes, hundreds of thousands of new dwellings, more supply, more affordability. Targets are easy. Building homes is harder. You cannot regulate productivity out of an industry for decades and then simply announce that it should build faster. The labour story follows exactly the same pattern. Every time housing shortages are discussed, we hear there aren't enough trades. Fair enough. Why not? Australia didn't suddenly lose the ability to produce carpenters, bricklayers, plumbers, and electricians. We spent decades telling young Australians that success meant going to university while vocational education became the poor cousin. Apprenticeships became less attractive. Residential construction became more difficult. Compliance increased. Risk increased. Margins tightened. Experienced tradespeople left the industry. The shortage didn't appear overnight. It was created over time. Now the proposed solution is usually more migration. Bring in more workers. Bring in more skills. Bring in more people. Yet every additional person also needs somewhere to live. Housing demand continues growing while the system responsible for delivering housing remains burdened by the same approvals, the same regulations and the same shortages that existed yesterday. That isn't solving the problem, it's adding pressure to it. Then we arrive back at the Metricon story. Think about what you're actually looking at. One of Australia's biggest builders has concluded that it makes commercial sense to manufacture much of a house in China, load it into shipping containers, transport it thousands of kilometres across the ocean, unload it in Australia, lift it into place with cranes and assemble it like giant Lego. Ask yourself one simple question. How difficult have we made building in Australia if that business model now stacks up? That should concern every Australian. Not because modular housing is bad. Modular housing has enormous potential. Factories can produce outstanding quality. Standardisation improves productivity. Waste is reduced. Technology should absolutely be embraced. The concern is that imported modular housing is increasingly being presented as the answer to problems largely created by our own policy settings. Housing has become so expensive that many Australians simply accept it as normal. Bigger construction costs become bigger mortgages. Bigger mortgages mean households carry more debt for longer. Banks earn interest on larger loan balances over decades. Governments collect revenue from the taxes, charges and fees attached to increasingly expensive housing. Meanwhile, the young couple trying to buy their first home simply wonders why the Australian dream keeps moving further away. Everyone points at someone else. Councils blame state governments. State governments blame planning systems. The Commonwealth blames supply. The industry blames labour shortages. Developers blame approvals. Nobody seems willing to ask whether the entire system has simply become too complicated. Perhaps that's the real story here. Not that Australia has discovered a revolutionary way to build houses. Perhaps the real story is that we've slowly built a regulatory and approval system so complex that importing much of a house from the other side of the world has become commercially competitive. That isn't just a construction story. It's a story about national productivity. It's a story about affordability. It's a story about whether Australia still knows how to get big things done. I'd genuinely like to hear your thoughts. Do you think imported flat pack housing represents progress, or is it evidence that we've made building in Australia unnecessarily difficult? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I read as many as I can, and many of your ideas end up shaping future videos. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who cares about the future of housing in Australia. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.